inviting people to be a part of this, find out what's going on, and so that this round, it's quickly going by also, that you can get involved in this. So before we get started here, I want to introduce Joe Amato. Joe Amato is the, I believe, Joe, correct me, you're the regional director or the director of the Nevada.
They
SBA.
call us, I'm the district director for the state of Nevada. That's my immediate title.
Yeah. So you're as high up the food chain as you're going to get in the state of Nevada as far as the SBA goes.
I am the highest.
You're the highest. Former football players, so that's why the big shoulders he's got. So they were able to load a lot of that on your shoulders. So we're very excited about you being in on the call. Also in on the call today, we've got Robbie Thomas, and Robbie is the chairman of the Black Business Chamber, and we also have Rose McDonald. She is the treasurer of the Black Business Chamber. And so in just a couple minutes, folks, we're going to open up to questions, but I'm going to just direct a few questions to Joe right off the bat and see if we can get some clarity on this as we move forward, so everybody kind of gives a frame of reference. So Joe, can you tell us what the PPP is? I mean, in a nutshell, kind of give us an overview of what is the program and what are they trying to accomplish by instituting such a program?
Well, the Paycheck Protection Program, basically, which is in its second phase, as you said, is primarily to support business in bringing back employees to their business operation, and primarily get them, those who are on unemployment, get them off unemployment. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of put together sort of like how the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program was, very quickly. Mm-hmm. And its first iteration, we were, as you said, the program absorbed $349 billion over 14 days. In fact, the byline inside that whole thing is, in 14 days, the SBA did more lending than it did in the past 14 years. That's how much of it financial impact it had. In the state of Nevada, we funded over 8,200 businesses to the tune of about $2 billion. Now, to just give you some reference, the PPP2, which started a week ago today, the state of Nevada has also received $2 billion already from PPP2, of which we have funded, of the 310 to 320 billion that was in PPP2, we have utilized about 179 billion of it, with about 150 billion to go. Okay. So it is a program that still has money. We believe that we've taken on the full onslaught from PPP1, who was left out in PPP1 and has now been absorbed in PPP2. And we're now basically doing outreach, trying to make sure that every business that needs paycheck protection will get it. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is the first round of PPP funding, the average loan size was about sub 250,000. Mm-hmm. So all these stories about, this getting 10 million and that getting 12 million and this, first of all, 10 million was the top. Mm-hmm. They're outliers. The majority of businesses receive under $250,000. This go around, which is amazing, the average loan size in PPP2 is $79,000.
Really?
We're dealing with independent contractors, sole proprietors. We're really doing the big reach out to basically supplement businesses or support businesses through PPP2. Mm-hmm. Paycheck protection is administered through your lender. Lenders all throughout the state, and I will tell you, by far, the community banks, the regional banks, the super regional banks took control of this program from the beginning. Okay. And every one of them is engaged. Our top lender last time around was Nevada State Bank. Meadows Bank was number 2. We had a little bank called Lexicon Bank up in Tivoli Village that alone did something in the neighborhood of $50-60 million the first go around, and is probably going to double that or triple that in the second go around. And this is a bank that just started up in June. They got heavily involved with PPP
So funding. They just started in June, and they're already. I mean, so where would you put them in the pecking order of banks that have been working?
They were a number 9 lender last on PPP1.
Wow.
So I mean, they were very aggressive with about 50 million. They were number 9 lender. Mm-hmm. Whereas I I think our lead lender was Nevada State Bank at about 300 million, and I think Meadows Bank was number 2 at about 150 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so they did 50 million. They did a good job. I mean, all the banks, whether you're talking First Security, Bank of George, Meadows, Lexicon, Nevada State Bank, Bank of Nevada, City National Bank. I know I'm going to miss some. You know, all the super regionals down to the community banks have done a killer job.
Wow.
I'm not going to say anything about the national banks because
okay,
I was going to
say I was going to bring this up too, because you and I had a conversation about this probably 2 years ago. Because you basically came on here in Nevada, what, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago now?
3 years ago. 3 years ago in September.
And so we had a conversation really fairly soon after you came in, and where you were basically just trying to whip that chain, you know, or get out the whip to get these banks to start doing some lending, and how you found that it was pretty tough. It's tough to get. So are you still finding, because I really kind of want to go back a little bit, how was Nevada before as far as lending went for these small businesses, especially because I know the regional banks are doing great now. How would you say everybody was doing before as compared to now?
Well, again, this is completely different. This has never occurred before. PPP and EIDL were created by the SBA because SBA is a preeminent force in natural disasters. Mm-hmm. This country's never faced an economic disaster before. I mean, we had the stock market crash in the 20s and so on and so forth, and those all had their implications. But the SBA didn't exist back then. They started in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So for all intents and purposes, this is all unproven ground. I mean, everything was set up with Scotch tape, Band-Aids, and bubble gum. Yeah. And put together in a matter of 4 days. So all the mistakes or all the things that may have complicated the process, I don't fault the bureaucracy. I don't fault the banks because it's all on ground that we've never had to cover before. Yeah. So even the banks that have stepped up, I said to you, I guess about a year ago or so, that the banks were still suffering from PTSD from 2008, 2009, 2012. Yes.
That's right.
And they're still suffering from it. Banks are risk averse. Uh-huh. Well, in the PPP program, they're 100% guaranteed from the SBA. Mm-hmm. So their risk is nil. They're held harmless for anything that goes on in the administration of the program. It all falls on the applicant. Mm-hmm. And they're basically giving money that's going to be forgiven, which they're going to get reimbursed from the Treasury after they fund it after 7 years.
So Joe, let's talk about that just a little bit too, because a lot of business owners do not realize that they can go into a bank right now and say, hey, look, I've been affected by this. Who qualifies for this? Is a big bit, because I know things have changed when they were phasing in sizes of businesses. But who qualifies now?
All business, for-profit, non-profit businesses, hospitals. Just recently, they changed the legislation. Casinos are now eligible.
Sure.
Independent contractors, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers. Believe it or not, since we're a small group here, strip clubs just got approved by court order.
Really?
Yep. Well, and the court order was pretty simple. They're saying,
I know LaChandra's out here going, really? What?
without the women, they're just bars and grills, Yeah. And so that's how the court looked at it. And none of them are going to be officially open until probably late June, state phase 3. Yeah. Because of social distancing. So they're just bars and grills right now. And they do have employees, and they have employees that, bartenders and barbacks and waitresses and so on and so forth. So, they sued and they won. They won in Wisconsin court. So, yeah. Wow. So it's been pretty interesting.
So the strip clubs didn't sue here in Las Vegas or Nevada. It was in Wisconsin someplace.
It was a national lawsuit. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I just read the brief. It was pretty good. The ruling, I mean.
Funny. Well, Mark Amaday was
any on business. What? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mark Amaday, who represents basically middle of the state.
Know him well. I know him very well.
So Mark, I'm just listening to him on the news, and he was fighting for the smaller casinos.
Yes, and he won. And he won.
So what was so crucial about that particular that?
The strip casinos are one thing. They have their insurance policies. They have set-asides. They basically have a different mode of safety and recovery.
Yeah.
It's the little towns like Mesquite and Pahrump and in northern Reno, Tahoe, that basically they have these casinos that are not these megalithic, groups that needed some support, and they basically. It wasn't only Mark Amaday. I mean, Jackie Rosen, both our senators, all our congresspeople basically advocated, especially here in the state of Nevada. When you have, a Mesquite casino group that employs over 1,100 people,
Yeah.
and you can keep those 1,100 jobs, I think, it didn't matter to me because I don't make the decision. But, it seemed important to save those jobs and to use a program that for all intents and purposes is there to save those types of jobs.
Sure.
So, again, it was just something they fought hard for. They got some kind of changes first, but they were very muted. And then basically they got where all casinos of a certain size, as long as they fit certain size standards,
Sure,
were eligible. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think they were saying the same thing like we have in regular business nationally. The vast majority of businesses are small businesses, and the same thing with casinos. The mega casinos are just really within a couple of miles on the strip, but there are casinos all over the place in this valley.
Yes.
And this particular carve out was covering all the rest of those casinos because they're
small privately owned casinos is where they were focused on, and they were successful in getting something put together. So
sure.
So again, it's a fraction. It's what's funny is everybody was complaining about big businesses here and big businesses there getting money. Well, by far, as I said, the average loan size is under $250,000 and now under $80,000 for PPP2. I mean, it is small business that's getting money. And believe me, I'm on the phone. One day last week, I did, was it Thursday last week? I answered emails or phone calls over 611 in one day.
Amazing.
It's a 22-hour day.
Yeah, that's great.
But that's how many people need assistance. And, and honestly, it doesn't matter if you're black or brown or white or yellow or whatever. I mean, business is business, and we are trying like heck to get. That's why this is my actual 80th webinar in the last 5 weeks.
I believe
you're officially the 80th. And it's basically being out there to help and support every type of business possible.
That is it. I'm going to ask one more question, folks, and I'm going to open it up to you who are waiting there. But so in a nutshell, I guess, business owner has been affected by this. He can actually go down to the bank and say, hey, look, or call, because you can't go down to the bank right now. It's really pretty tough.
Right.
You can call to
most
the bank
of them are online applications at this point.
Okay. So you can do an online application right now and say, hey, look, I've been affected for this. And so what are the criteria? What's kind of the big picture on this? You say, I want to borrow 50,000, 60,000.
No, that's not how it works. I'll give you the real quick synopsis. Okay. A business will use, normally the most ideal document for a business is its 940. Yep. The business is being reimbursed for its W-2 expenses. So if a business puts out, pays $1.2 million a year in payroll to the W-2 employees. Again, W-2, it's very important for business. And that's $100,000 a month. Under the PPP program, they're allowed 2.5 times that average monthly payroll. So their gross payroll is $100,000 based on my example. So they'll basically get $250,000, of which 75% of that $250,000 has to be used toward payroll. Up to 25% of it could be used for other eligible PPP expenses like mortgage interest, leases, rents, utilities, sort of occupancy related expenses. That money basically pays staff up to 8 weeks. So it gives them 8 weeks of payroll based on the numbers you provide. Now, the two things that are most important in this is every business wants to get 100% forgiveness. This is free money if they just follow the rules. It's free money. Sure. Very simply. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you get $20,823 or if you get $5,000 or you get, the largest one I've done is $8.5 million.
Wow.
Okay, one largest one I've been involved in.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all that forgiven if you do two things. Number one,
Two things.
you have to basically maintain that 75% of your PPP funding. In this case, it's $250,000 in the example I gave. 75% has to go toward payroll. Okay. The second and more important number is that when you're giving them your average monthly payroll, gross all in payroll, and in that gross number, you can also include payments toward retirement accounts and payments toward group health insurance.
Oh, very cool.
So, and the caveat is none of your employees in your calculation can be evaluated or calculated with a salary over $100,000. So if your senior VP makes 150, he can only be calculated 100,000. If you are on payroll as the owner, you have to be on payroll. You have to be a W-2 employee.
Yeah.
If you are 250, you can only get compensated up to $100,000, which is $8,333 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. So taking that all in consideration, what you're providing the bank is your average monthly payroll, all in gross with any kind of add-ons for group health insurance or retirement payments.
Yeah, sure.
And then you're also giving them your employee census. How many people make up that payroll?
Yeah.
And those people could be full-time, part-time, whatever. I mean, your payroll is your payroll. Whatever your staff is your staff.
Mm-hmm.
So what we try to concentrate is on the full-time equivalents. So say you have 25 employees and 20 of them are full-time and 5 of them are part-time seasonal. You count that 20 as your full-time equivalents and you put that on your application.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do in order to get 100% forgiveness, and this is important, remember, it's a Paycheck Protection Program, and it's supposed to be helping businesses get off people off unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a caveat, which I'll tell you in a second.
Sure.
You have to basically have all of those, for our example, all 20 employees on staff from day one after you receive your funding for 8 weeks on staff. You could have a number greater than that. If you end up having, because things happen faster than you thought and you start expanding, you can have more people, but you can't have less. You have to have that number in the application or greater for the 8 weeks in order to get forgiveness. Now, there's a caveat, a rule change that happened yesterday. It's very important.
Oh, okay.
A lot of businesses came back to us because what did the federal government do first before they created any SBA program? Sorry, I'm Italian. I use my hands a lot. They created this unemployment bonus. So people are getting $600 extra a week.
Yes.
People are making the equivalent of $1,000 a week at full unemployment benefit here in Nevada, which equates to $52,000 a year, which is, some of them don't even make close to that in a year.
Yes, true. Yeah.
But how are you going to get your employees back when they're making $1,000 a week?
Making $1,000 a week. That's been the biggest thing right now, right? Sure. Yeah.
So the new rule change is if you are an employer, especially restaurants, so on and so forth, and you basically reach out to your staff. Now you have to do this all in writing. So say you say in an email out to all your staff, and you got to get those 20 people back that you're full-time employees, and 10 of them come back because they love you. They're going to come back no matter what. Unemployment's a short-term thing. 10 of them say, listen, I'm getting $1,000 a week. There's no way I'm coming back.
Yeah, sure.
As long as you have it documented, the rule that changed yesterday says that does not account against you. So if you have 20 employees, 10 come back because they just want to love and work for you. Yes. And the other 10 say, listen, $1,000 a week, brother, I'm not coming back until this is vanquished. As long as you have it documented in writing and you present it to your lender, you will not be penalized and you will not lose forgiveness. Because the bottom line is, remember the 20 people we're talking about? We'll say that on the average, only 18 come back. And there's no documented unemployment issues. There's none of that, okay? You will be only receive, in that case, 90% forgiveness. Wow. If 16 comes back, you only receive 80% forgiveness. So there is a percentage of forgiveness you still can earn, but this new unemployment ruling is going to help tremendously with some of these businesses that are battling, the fact that their ex-employees are on unemployment. Now, between the 6 of us here, there's something really important to know. You know, as a business, if you offer a job to somebody on unemployment and they refuse it, you know what happens to unemployment? What's supposed to happen?
What's supposed to happen
is they're supposed to lose unemployment.
Yeah, sure.
But a lot of business owners have said, I'm not going to rat on them.
No.
I'm going to use it to help me with unemployment with my forgiveness. But, do I want a disgruntled employee because I just tore $1,000 a week out from under them?
Yeah.
So it's a very catch-22 situation that obviously every business owner has to deal with, and us in the bureaucracy, us in the agency, have to be basically cognizant of. So
that's amazing.
So that's basically how the program works, basically getting people back to work. Now, a lot of people said, I'm shut down, the strip's not open, my restaurant's in the strip. It's funny, but again, the way the program's written, you may have to, there are businesses I'm dealing with right now that got funding, and for the first 2-3 weeks until the stay-at-home order is lifted, they're paying their employees to basically be on standby, to stay at home.
Sure.
So they can't come in.
Yeah.
So there is some nuances where, because of the way the situation is and the sort of mitigating circumstances outside of just the normal business enterprise, that people are getting sort of, that business owners are saying, listen, I need you back on staff. I'll pay you for the first couple of weeks until we can reopen.
Yeah.
And, I'm paying you to be on standby to stay at home.
That's amazing. Really cool.
So that's happening too. There's some businesses, I did 2 or 3 businesses that have hundreds of employees and they're all back. They're in that sort of area that they're sort of staging and preparing for when the resorts open, or they're staging and preparing for when tourists start coming back.
Sure.
And they're in a quasi-essential business now because of the rules as they've changed, and they're taking advantage of it.
Well, that's good. So I'm going to open it up to questions right now. So if you have a question that you'd ask, I've got quite a few questions still to ask Joe, but I'll unmute you. Just go ahead and raise your hand real quick, and I'll unmute you, and you can ask your question. Robbie, is that you? Okay. Robbie, you are unmuted right now. Go for it.
So a quick question on, you said it was just W-2s that we're getting, that's eligible. So a sole proprietor that doesn't have a W-2 or K-1 income?
My brain was going faster than my script in my head.
Okay.
So if you're a business, you're going to use W-2 income. People will ask me, can I use K-1 for myself? Can I use Schedule E for it's only W-2 income. If you're a W-2, if you're a business applying, you have to just maintain your W-2, and that's reflected in your 940. What I'm telling businesses, just provide your 940. That'll give you your employee census. That'll give, if you have a seasonality to your employees, you can provide that information as well. If you're an independent contractor, you provide your 1099. So, and there's a sort of fine line between independent contractor and sole proprietor. I make recommendations, and with certain lenders, that if you use your 1099, there are lenders that will take your top gross margin for 1099 and use that divided by 12 times 2.5 to give you your PPP number. Right. For a lot of realtors, I'm doing a lot of realtors, believe it or not, some Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, they make over $100,000 a year on their 1099s.
Yeah, they do. Sure.
So they have to cap it at $100,000. So it's 8,333, 8,333 a month, times 2.5 is $20,832. They're getting $20,000, $21,000 basically for free to keep them self-employed for 8 weeks. It's very easy to keep an employee of one. So if you're a 1099 subcontractor, it's always best to use that. Now I'm going to tell you, because I tell everyone else, there are some lenders that are opting because the way the rule is written, if you are a 1099 contractor but you have a Schedule C company, they want you to use the Schedule C. But between the 6 of us, the Schedule C really screws you. Because the way they wrote the stupid rule, it says Schedule C line 31, which is your net income. So would you rather use your gross income from 1099 or your net income from Schedule C? Yeah. So as a sole proprietor, you're sort of screwed because you have to use your Schedule C. But if you're a sole proprietor, like I was I wasn't a sole proprietor. Yeah, I was a sole proprietor, and I Schedule C'd my 1040. I had a company making a couple $1 million a year back east, and I made sure my Schedule C bottom line was really, really small. But I got paid 1099s for a bunch of clients. I would have used if I was in this situation, I've used my 1099. It was over 100,000, and I would definitely get, the top I could get, 20,832. Mm-hmm. But, there are certain businesses that have a very strong line 31 on their Schedule Cs. They can use those. But most people, have these small businesses. They're trying to mitigate tax implications and liability. Yeah. So they're expensing the crap out of everything, and they're not having a large line on line 31. So be cognizant of the fact that your business, you have to use Now includes unlimited minutes. Oh, okay. If you're a business, you want to use your W-2, 940, 941s to prove it out. You want to use usually 2019 as your basis because that gives you the clearest cut. Most people have now filed their Q1s for 941s for 2020. You could use that as well if it has a better number for you as far as PPP is concerned. Because you might, the first 2 months of this year, 3 months of this year, you increased before everybody fell off a cliff.
Right.
So, and if you're an independent contractor, you want to use 1099. If any of you are having difficulty with a bank or any of your businesses within your group are having, tell them to email me. I've set up a relationship with a bank that basically is allowing us to get approvals in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
And they're using 1099 as their basis if you have one.
Sure.
So they're actually getting more money out there to businesses where some banks will just take your Schedule C and tell you go screw yourself if you don't want it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that's the big banks, but
yeah,
it's certain banks that do it.
It's amazing though. So Joe, but I think the thing that I'm hearing from you though is to tell these business owners to apply. That's kind of the bottom line. You know?
Have to apply.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm just making sure something's taken care of.
No, not a problem. Does somebody else have a question they want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody else have?
Did I answer your question, Robbie? By the way?
Yes.
Okay. And guys, for I know Sherman knows it, but my email is joseph.amato@sba.gov. Mm-hmm. Joseph.amato, AMATO. And if you guys have any calls, you have concerns by any of your constituents, any of your members, because there's a small group here, my phone number is 540-840-8033. It's a Virginia number. I brought it with me from when I moved from the East Coast. And I don't want to change it. I've had it for 20-something years. Don't hesitate to call me, especially if you have a member that's having a hard time. Sure. And believe me, like I said, I'm answering between 400 and 600 emails and phone calls a day.
Sure.
So what's a few more?
I'm going to unmute Rose because I can see her hand going up there. Go for it.
Hi, Rose.
Hi. So my question is, for those employees who decide that they do not want to return to work because it's more financially lucrative for them not to return, how would that affect their future unemployment claim? Because obviously that's not going to be forever, and they may need unemployment later.
Well, it's funny, again, I'm not unemployment, I'm not Dieter, I'm not any of that stuff. But the way the rule reads, if you have an employee and they are on unemployment and you ask them to come back to work and they refuse because it's more lucrative for the short term, because it is the short term, unemployment is going to run out. The business is they're supposed to legally tell unemployment they refuse to work, which immediately makes them ineligible for unemployment.
Sure.
So obviously that's not going to happen. But, again, this is the real world. And, we're all grown-ups and some people have to take responsibility and some people don't. I would say that for the most part, what I try to do and tell the business is try to get as many employees back as you can. Now with this new rule, to get in writing, send an email out to all the people. If they respond and say, listen, I'm going to continue to collect unemployment until it runs out, now you have proof and documentation to show your lender that you tried to get them back. By the way, I love your backdrop. Is that a radio show or something you do?
I know.
I have a really great podcast that's done really, really well. We're almost at
How come I have not been on it? How come I've not been invited?
Actually, you know what? It would be really great because we're about at 1 million listeners right now.
Well, I've been on everybody's podcast, it seems, across the country but yours, especially after I got in trouble a couple of weeks ago. What's that?
Live, so I think you would do. That would be really great if you could actually. And it's all based for businesses. It's basically for businesses. I've even had a few celebrities on.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. And I'm very shy and reserved, so
yes,
you have to prompt it out of me.
So I don't know if it's gotten this far, but for when it comes to now for our W-2s at the end of the year, do you know if they'll be adding any additional field or tax line for those who received money due to the current situation?
Okay,
that they have to report.
Wow.
This is the better part of this whole program.
Wow.
There is no tax implications from the PPP program,
so this
whether to the individual or the business. Because there's debt forgiveness. Normally in debt forgiveness with a business, It's a taxable event.
Yeah.
Congress wrote the rule that it is not a taxable event. You are being paid normally, so there is not going to be any special line. So if a company paid you through March and then you didn't get paid for a couple of months because they're getting the PPP money, then you're paid again through PPP. There's no differentiation. It's basically, it's still income to you, and it won't be treated any differently. Your W-2 at the end of the year is going to basically reflect whatever amounts you were paid in gross and whatever deductions were made in gross, so that it's almost seamless. So there's no, to the individual, there's no special treatment of the money you get paid through PPP. And for the business, like I said, once your debt is forgiven, it is not a taxable event, which is huge.
That is huge.
That's great.
Huge.
That is amazing. Joe, we're gonna end in just a couple of minutes here because I know you've got a busy day today. And I'm really so excited, folks, that we got Joe Amato here today. Like I said, he's high up the food chain as you can get as far as the SBA. Let me ask you a real quick question here. Are you thinking about playing football? No, I was going to say, are you thinking about playing football again?
Redskins!
What is the SBA's role in this whole thing? I mean, really, because, everybody thinks that they're going to go to the SBA and they're going to get money. What is the SBA's role in this whole thing?
And that's really, to quickly tell you about the EIDL program, the Economic Injury Development Disaster Loan Program, which basically, hold on a second, let me tell my boss I'm on a webinar. Basically, the SBA is administering the EIDL loan program, which is currently halted. When the EIDL loan program first came out, it was up to $2 million. It was a 3.75% interest rate. It was up to 30-year amortization. I think that they believe they'd get about 1 million applications.
Yeah.
Mostly because in natural disasters, businesses don't go to the SBA for money. Residential people do. Residential homes do. Businesses usually get paid in a natural disaster from their insurance company. Well, since the insurance companies balked on business interruption and everything else having to do with the economic disaster, what ended up happening was all the businesses ran to the SBA. And my understanding is they got like 5.4 million applications.
Oh, dear Lord.
Instead of less than 1 million.
Wow.
They are still processing these applications. Now, the program stopped when the first funding ran out, the $349 billion. It just was reinstated yesterday to only include agribusinesses, agricultural businesses. So no businesses can apply or reapply at this point. Only agricultural businesses, and only the businesses that applied the first go around when EIDL first came out, and they had a confirmation number that started with 2. So it's a very limited basis. Instead of now up to $2 million, it's up to $500,000 because they're trying to spread more of the money out. Yeah. There's also an advance portion of it where somebody can get up to $10,000 advance. So that is something that the SBA is involved in directly, the EIDL program. The PPP program, they are administering and providing guidelines and rules, but that's funded by the banks. And then after the 8-week period, the banks then petition the U.S. Treasury, and they get after they're forgiven the funding, and the U.S. Treasury reimburses the banks for the money that they put out during that 8-week period of PPP.
Yeah.
So we are here basically as the referees, as the rule makers, as the guides. We're trying to basically just try to get as much money out there as possible. We want to get your group as much money as possible.
Sure.
And like I said, we'll do whatever we can to get it there.
Well, thank you so much. We're definitely going to continue to spread the word on this. Robbie, did you have another question? I'm sorry. Oh, hang on. Let me unmute you there. Go for it, Robbie. Oh,
no, still muted. Okay.
Yeah. Go for it, Robbie.
He's muted himself.
Oh, you muted?
There you go. Perfect. So just a quick question regarding what you said earlier about some of the larger casinos having insurance and that kind of thing. Because of this the uniqueness of this virus, are you seeing any sort of trends around insurance claims? And what does COVID-19 fall under? I guess is the question. Is
pandemic.
It an act of God? Is it
it's a pandemic, and pandemics are not covered by insurance companies.
And it's not covered.
No.
Gotcha.
But just because we're a little group here, one of the things that is happening nationwide is were businesses closed because of the pandemic, or was business closed because of the activities of the federal and state governments? So who really closed Nevada businesses? Was it the pandemic, or was it the governor?
Good question.
So that changes the dynamics. And there's a lot of businesses that are now pursuing legal remedies. On top of, hey, you get PPP, that's fine. You get a legal remedy, who knows? I mean, really, who really shut down business in, the different states? And that, again, I don't have a dog in that fight. I have to stand on the sidelines and something like that. But yeah, it is definitely a conversation that's being had.
It definitely is.
Appreciate
amazing. Folks, we're going to end right now. Joe, thank you so much. We're going to leave your email address and your phone number down in the corner in the chat.
Yeah, don't give it out to everybody. Just give it out to the people that need it.
Yeah, definitely will. But thank you so much, and we hope that we continue just to get the word out about this. When we'll be doing other events like this again, and so thank you so much.
I will make myself available if you need to do it again. If you have a larger group that wants to participate, if you want to do it, don't hesitate to reach out to some of the other groups that are having these, that are inviting your groups. I mean, I did one for the Vegas Chamber the other day, and the Latin Chamber, the Asian Chamber. There were like 4 or 5 different chambers that were involved in it, and I know they'd love to include you as well.
Yep.
So
fantastic. Well, thank you so much,
great.
brother.
It's a pleasure meeting you all virtually. I mean, this is the new normal. Get me on your podcast. I want to spread the word.
Yes, Rose will have to reach out to you. Sorry, she's muted now too. All right, Joe, we'll talk to you later.
Love it.
Okay? Thank you, brother.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Be good.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Sherman.
You're welcome, Sean.